Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode number 46 of the Lead to Greatness podcast, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential, and together we can change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Brett Trembly. Brett is the co-founder of Get Staffed Up. During this podcast, Brett discussed how delegating through hiring will give you some of your time back to do the things that's very important and need to be done in your business. Help me welcome Brett with Delegating to Freedom. This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I grew up in a small town in New Mexico, just outside of Albuquerque.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't really know anyone who grew up in New Mexico. It's like that weird space in between Arizona and Texas.
Right.
But for better or worse, Breaking Bad really put us on the map. So now people kind of know about what we're all about, I guess. So yeah, I grew up there, and I still have a lot of family that lives out there. And I moved out to Miami for law school. I started my own firm a few years after law school, and then now this business, which is scaling very quickly. It's called Get Staffed Up, and we do virtual staffing services. So my mom tells a story. Now that I have kids, the story is way more like impactful for me, because at the time I'm like, big deal. Like that's just who I am.
Right.
But I had an older brother, so we're walking out of school. I'm in first grade, he's in fourth grade, and we're holding bottles of Coke, because this is in the mid 80s, right? So you still had the glass Coca-Cola, way better, by the way, and snacks. And my mom asked my brother, like, where did you get the money for those? And he's like, oh, Brett bought it for us, right? And again, I'm the little brother. I have kids now, third grade, kindergarten, and one younger. So
Right.
if they were to do something like this, it would blow me away. And my mom asked me, where I got the money. I'm like, well, I took a bunch of the pens from Dad's store and I sold them to make money. Like, that's how you make money, right? I was the kid that always had a donut stand or a lemonade stand, and I didn't look at it like it was just like fun. It was the thing to do. And so I guess my gift has always been action. Ideas are not worthless. Some people say ideas are worthless. It's all about execution. Ideas aren't worthless, because if you're running on the hamster wheel and you're just working hard but not going anywhere in particular because you didn't have that good purposeful idea, then again, you're just on the hamster wheel. But what separates a good idea from your competitors is the execution of it. And I think I've always just been the guy that never stops to think why something wouldn't work out or how I could fail. I just do it. And they say your strength can be your weakness. Sometimes you don't plan as hard as you would because you have so much confidence, or you don't realize that you don't know everything. And so time, life is short. You just got to go for it now and see how much you can accomplish in a short amount of time. When you grow up with parents that don't really have that much money, especially after my parents got a divorce, there was never a lot of money. Like, hey, Dad, I want this. Like, can I have the money? Yeah. So I never asked for it. I just always tried to figure out ways. I would buy something, clean it up, and sell it. Or, I paid for my own way to go to my senior trip by just inventing some contests and raffles and different things to make money. I had a candy machine line, I guess, like 4 or 5 candy machines when I was in college. So I always knew that I would work for myself, but I wasn't ready to grow up necessarily after college. So I wanted to go to law school and get that education and go to a bigger city and have some fun. And that's really what law school was for me. So those things came together. I worked for 3 years at a small firm. And then I basically said, look, I'm starting my own thing. I'm leaving in a month. It was 11/1/11. So November 1st, 2011, the world looked different to me that morning. I woke up and I was in charge of my own time. Nobody could tell me where to be and what to do. And everything looked different to me, just like the way I was processing the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I tell everyone that I'm leaving, and thank God I did, because once you commit, you're kind of committed. So then I'm like, well, I can't back out now anyway, because I guess it would have been easy to be like, well, now I can't start my own thing because I'm going to have a kid. But so within the next year, I had a new business. I got married and had a kid. and then got a mortgage. All those things at once with a new business where I wasn't making very much money. So that was a very, very stressful time. And I've talked about my story a lot. My first 2 years of owning my own business, I thought would just be easy. Again, it's kind of like the overconfidence thing, which can be your biggest weakness. I didn't know necessarily how to run a business. I didn't know how to run a law firm. I just thought, well, I've always been successful at making money. It'll just come easy. And things didn't change until I started delegating and getting help. And it took me so long to get there because I didn't have the money to hire someone. And that's the constant, like, do I hire someone, but I don't have the money? Well, you never will until you hire someone. And that's really my story, and where this staffing company comes from is because we help people who can't, really like fathom or justify how to pay someone 30, 40, $50,000, an extra $5,000, $6,000 a month when you start calculating all the other costs that it takes to hire someone, because they don't know where that money is going to come from. They don't know where the next client's going to come from, their next paycheck. They're self-employed, and we do overseas virtual staffing. So we help people start delegating a lot earlier in their entrepreneurial journeys.
What was the process from you getting from that struggle of you doing everything yourself to really, just even trusting someone enough to say, you know what, I need to let this stuff go?
It's funny when I talk about it because I'm like encapsulating years of pain into 90 seconds of an explanation. But
Mm,
I had to realize what I was really afraid of, which was failure.
mm,
And the fear of failure comes from your ego. I
mm,
thought, well, if I hire someone and then I can't afford to pay them and I got to fire someone, like I would just walk down the street and everybody would point at me like, oh, what a loser. This guy, he tried to, grow his firm. And then, that is so self-centered to think that everyone just thinks about you all the time. People are too busy trying to run their own lives and make their own money and help their own families to worry about you or me so much. And if you are around those people who are going to, amplify your failures, then you're around the wrong people anyway. So there was a lot of reading. Think and Grow Rich was very big for me at that time. And coaching was huge. I went ahead and hired a coach anyway, and they really just beat it into me. Like, you have to stop doing the things that are preventing you from spending more time on important tasks. And so I finally hired somebody for 30 hours a week. She was a law student at the time. I barely paid her, poor thing. But my firm doubled our revenues. At the time we were doing about like 9,000 a month,
mm.
right, in total revenue, which is just enough for me to like pay the bills and groceries and rent and all that other stuff. So and we doubled. We went to 20 like the very first month.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, wow, how is this possible? Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. It's very simple. It's not rocket science like I made it out to be. It's just math.
Yeah.
1 hour of work per day that you actually get paid for, you just multiply that by 2. Because when you get things off your plate, you now are focused on higher and better use of your time. And in the legal world, that could be a billable hour. That's a very easy way to double. And in any other world, it could be more sales calls. I was answering my own phones. I was sending my own faxes. I was doing all my own emails. I was scheduling my own lunches. I was networking, doing all these other things except for legal work, which is what I was really hired for.
Yeah.
And when you let all those other things get in the way of whatever it is your business, and I make a lot of restaurant analogies. If you're creating the menu and then you're being the host and then you're being the waiter, you're not going to make good food. Your restaurant is not going to be a good restaurant. And too many small business owners just try to do everything themselves. It's a bad way to do it. Sometimes, like, no one else can do it as good as me. This is my baby. Sometimes it's just an excuse because you don't want to hire someone, or you don't think you have the money to hire someone because of our relationship with money. We're all so tightly tied to money, and when you don't have it is when it's worse because you need it so much, right? Other times that comes again from the ego thinking you're the only one that's good at what you do, which is just frankly a silly way to look at it. You don't need to be the best thing at all the things in your world. You only need to be the best at one or two things, and then hire people who are better than you. Like if I owned a restaurant, I don't know how to cook. I can bake a little bit, but man, I can't cook. So if I ever owned a restaurant, that would be a much easier process for me than what I went through trying to do everything myself. I wouldn't do anything in the restaurant. Nothing. I would hire people to do all of the things that make a restaurant, which is a business, run the right way to have the best product at the end of the day. And that is just something that people just can't get over. And this works for small businesses too. Let's say you're going to start a social media company, and I'm going to go and get a bunch of clients, and I'm going to have, I'm going to charge $1,000 a month, and I'm going to do their website and do some other things. You can hire a virtual assistant through us, for example, for $1,850 a month that can basically run that whole business from you. Yeah.
1,850 a month.
Full time, 40 hours a week. So if that's your business model, your second client, you're already profitable. Yeah, I know you got some other software costs, right? So your job is then to train your assistant to do all the things that your clients are hiring you to do, and you go make more sales. But when you're doing the work of the business, you don't have time to go make more sales. And that's the hamster wheel that I'm talking about that we all get stuck in, man. It's tough.
You mentioned hiring someone that's better than you. How do you go about doing that?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the role, right? If customer service is a big part of your business, then hire somebody who's really friendly and very patient. Trust me, 99% of people in this world are better at that than me, right? If it's being the chef, hire the best chef that you can. If it's doing legal work, hire the best attorney that you can. If it's doing a podcast, hire the best editor that you can. Like Cedric, you've got, there's more to production, right? And there's more to scheduling. All these things you can use software for, but you still need a person to double check and pull the triggers. You should just have these things lined up for you, as I presume you do. You show up, record the podcast, and all these other things are happening for you behind the scenes so that you can focus on making your entire product better.
You're hiring someone, you think they're the right. I mean, everything is perfect. I mean, you read this resume. I mean, it's like, this is the best person you ever met in the world. But then when it's time to get to work, the resume doesn't match up to this person's work ethics. I'm actually this question. Can that be avoided?
Sometimes it can't, like sometimes even when we get better and better at hiring, and we improve our processes, sometimes it happens. Sometimes somebody, you hire them and they don't show up for day two. They just ghost us, right? Sometimes they work out for a week, sometimes for a month. Sometimes you thought you really connected with the person, like you just said, but then their actual skill set is pretty bad, and you find out, you know what, I guess I like this person, but you want to like them, but you also want them to be good at their job. And so and I'm glad you asked this question, because a lot of people I've heard say, oh yeah, I tried hiring, it didn't work out. Like, what does that mean? That's like picking up a tennis racket one time and your serve went out. So now you're like, oh, I tried tennis one time, it didn't work out. It's like anything. It takes practice, man. You gotta work at getting better and not be so upset when the ball lands out of bounds. You just regroup and move on to the next point.
That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that, because even with hiring, I mean, most people, small business owners, they try it, then it doesn't happen, and then now they go back to doing it themselves. What would you say to that person to encourage that individual that they tried hiring someone, it didn't work out, and it's like, okay, what, I'm just going to do it myself. I can't find nobody to do it. I don't trust anyone. I'm going to do it myself.
I would ask them 20 years from now, right? Let's say you're 40, because by the way, I think what I read is the average age in the past 5 years of a new entrepreneur is 45. So this is not like a young kid's game. A lot of people have second careers, or they just get fed up. But let's say you're 40. Do you really want to be 60 years old 20 years from now and look back and be like, man, I just am so glad I played it small.
Mm.
I'm just so glad I just did everything myself. I never really made more money. I never really saw what was out there. I didn't take risks and fail. My ship was always in the harbor. Or do you want to say I lived and I learned, and sometimes I won and sometimes I lost, but the way I look at it, you either win or you learn. Really, in business, there's no losses. You just figure out how to make a better life for you and your family by having your business not own you. And if you do everything yourself, you don't have a business. The business has you. That's it.
And that's amazing. That's amazing. We're living in, as this recording, this is 2021. 2021, even with the pandemic, and you have people working from home virtually. So this is becoming a big thing, going from, hiring face to face to going to hiring people virtually. How do you hire and work with a virtual assistant?
Yeah. Okay. So if you try to hire someone directly, there's going to be a learning curve because you're going to have to learn how to find a virtual assistant.
Mhm.
So it's going to take you longer. Monthly, you may save some money. Okay. And so there's like this time versus money thing. As Tim Ferriss says in the 4 Hour Work Week, it's going to take you about 7 tries to find a good one. So I argue that's like a year and a half of your time plus a lot of money and heartache and all those other things. Okay. But it can happen. It can happen. You go through a company like ours, and you're in charge of who you hire. We're just finding great people and we're putting them in front of you. And then you're saying, okay, I want to interview this person and potentially hire them myself.
Wow.
So we're doing all the back end screening. We're this year, Cedric will have 100,000 people apply to work with us all over the world. I mean,
Wow.
we've got, systems and the technology and the software to whittle down and get to the top less than 1%, because less than 1,000 of those 100,000 people will be employed through us this year. Okay, so either way, however you find it, right? Work dollar for dollar, we're going to cost you a little bit more than if you go direct. But again, you're valuing, if you go through us and your person doesn't work out, which can happen, we replace them for you very quickly and no additional fees. So again, it's all a matter of what you prefer. But when you do find someone, onboarding is really important. You got to take the time to train the people that are going to do the work for you. And a lot of, there's that little saying like, well, what if I train someone and they leave? And they're like, well, what if you train someone and they don't leave? Or it's like you need to take about a day and a half to write out what you want this person to do in this position and put some things in writing, and then spend a few hours when they start with you and give them a few tasks, and then 2 days later review those tasks and then give them a few more tasks, and then every week you want to put more and more on their plate. So you want like a 6-week onboarding plan, so by the end of 6 weeks they should really be up and running as soon as possible.
Wow.
Now, you're probably going to ask me, and you started to earlier, well, what do people delegate? So if you're in a traditional type of business, service-based business, etc., you can hire for specific positions, right? Receptionist, personal assistants, in my world, legal secretary, marketing assistant, which can be any business. Or you just, if you're in a smaller business or you don't know where to start or you've never hired before, just hire someone to be like the do all, okay? And there's a good way to do this. Take a sheet of paper and draw a column right down the middle. On the left side, say right at the top, everything I like doing that I'm doing, and on the right side, everything I don't like doing, everything I hate doing,
Wow.
okay? The list on the left, everything you love doing, is going to be very short. The list on the right is going to be very long if you're
Mhm.
honest with yourself. And again, honest with yourself, because it's not going to matter for me or you, but you know, all the things, don't not put them on the right side because you're like, oh, but then I can't justify not hiring that person. I'm going to pretend like I like this thing. Just be honest with yourself. All right. Take a highlighter, highlight the 20 most annoying things or the things that take up time. And those are the first 20 things you delegate to a full-time person.
What are some common mistakes that small business owners make, even after going through the process? For example, your personal clients, hiring someone through getting staffed up. What are some common mistakes that the small business owner makes?
It's lack of follow-up. So a weekly report card is, let's say that you have, I don't know, you've got a marketing assistant, right?
Mhm.
So you're like, okay, I need 30 pieces of content put out on social media every week. I need one email newsletter disseminated to my entire list every week. I need one new blog for my website every week. Boom, boom, boom. And you come up with about 7 weekly repeatable tasks.
Mm.
At the end of the week on Friday, at 4:30, they need to fill out that scorecard.
Mm.
And what that does is, I mean, who doesn't like it would be like playing basketball and no one's keeping score.
Yeah.
You're like, I think we're winning, maybe. Like, I mean, like sometimes but employees want to know if they're doing well. And
Yeah.
if they're having written feedback, then they know, well, I can't not be doing well because I'm doing everything that Cedric's asking me to do because it's right here in writing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they get really good at those things, now you may have extra time for project-based work, which is not repeatable type work. Okay, hey, find me 5 speaking gigs, find me 10 podcasts. And so what we want to do is go over the scorecard and give feedback. We don't give our teams enough feedback to know what they're doing wrong, that they should be doing better or more to your liking. So
Yeah.
then, like, if you don't really love interacting with that person, you're like, I'll just do it myself. So then you're annoyed with them and they don't even know it. And that's where the relationship starts to deteriorate because you didn't take the time to communicate.
That's good. And since you said that, I do want to touch on this, and I want you to speak to this, your thoughts on this. Most companies, traditional companies, always do this annual review. Like it's one time you're doing this review. Why
Yeah.
do you think that's a good idea or not a good idea?
Well, the concept is good, but it needs to be quarterly, not annually.
Okay.
Life happens. So much changes in 90 days. If someone says that they're happy and they're excited to work with you, if at the end of the year, if you have a quarterly conversation with them in the middle of February, I don't know, maybe someone got pregnant, maybe someone got a job opportunity, and either, it's like sticking your head in the sand. Well, I don't want to know because I don't want them to leave. So either you see that they're not happy and it's a very valuable employee. So now you want to work towards keeping them, or you want to work toward a transition plan. Well, hey, can you give me 6 months? This is a hard place. This is a hard position to
Wow.
fill.
Good.
And that constant communication is what's going to help you not only attract 18 players, but keep them and keep them happy.
Wow. Man, that's good. That's awesome. 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 But I want to just shift a little bit to leadership because I believe in order to lead a business involve people, in order to lead people, and you have to know leadership. So I'm gonna ask you this question: what characteristics, values, qualities do you feel every great leader should have?
Well, I love this topic, first of all. Second of all, a few. One of the main ones, and this one is a little bit difficult to articulate because it's like one of those things when they say, don't mistake kindness for weakness. Okay. So
Mhm.
I'm going to say empathy. But the reason I'm going to say that is not because, you need to have like kumbaya time and sit around and people need to like be able to come and complain to you. Like you need to understand where people are coming from and say, man, I hear you, I understand that. Here's what the job requires, though. Can we find a way for you to get the job done despite what you're going through? Like people don't want weak leaders. So you don't want to be the type of leader that gets up and like, oh guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this business afloat. Everything's going terribly. Money's down. The economy's terrible.
Mm.
But you know what? Go work hard today. I mean, nobody's going to work hard after that meeting. They think, I got to go find a job. This guy I'm working for is a friggin', got a screw loose in his head. And
Right.
he's, or she, I'm just a he. But so you have to be able to relate to people. You have to be able to like look at them and understand where they're coming from, and yet tell them, here's where the bus is going. I want you on it. And if you want to be on it, then this is where it's going by when. Because it's,
Mm.
it's your it's your bus. And if you just don't tell people where the bus is going, now you're kind of misleading them. If you're
Oh, wow.
very clear, we're in LA, this bus going to Chicago. No amount of complaining is going to take me off course because it's my business, it's my bus, and I'm driving it. I have a seat for you. Here's what the seat pays. And when we get there, we're going to say we accomplished this mission. Do you
Yes.
want do you want to be on this bus? Okay, great. Now we both clearly communicated with one another. Nobody misled anybody. Eyes wide open. Everyone's on the same page. Welcome aboard. That type of open and honest communication and being forthright is so important because people, I don't know how I want to get to Chicago necessarily, but I may have 5 buses. and I want to be on the most fun, like the best bus possible. And
Yeah.
so I need to know from all my options what I'm going to be doing on that bus. Is it a party bus? Is it a meditation bus? You
Awesome.
know, and I, like that is so important to get the right people on the right bus to have the right culture, because in one business you may want a bunch of bulldogs. In
Right.
another business it may be just totally different, and you're, you know, you're going to protest something, or you're like, it's just so important that we clearly communicate what mission we're on and why, and then let people decide if they want to come along.
Wow. Knowledge bomb. This is amazing. This is amazing because this is the thing. We always focus on about people with resumes misleading the owners, but if the owner is not casting the vision correctly and properly, they are misleading the employees. Man, that is so amazing. I never heard it like that before. Man, that is so amazing. So awesome, awesome, awesome.
And not only that, Cedric, but let's say someone did lie on the resume.
Mm.
If you just laid out everything on the table, then you can look across the table and be like, listen, you clearly misled me. I told you what we were doing, and you said you could do that. If you don't ask the right questions, now you're gonna be like, well, I thought I told you. Like, well, I didn't know, and there's just gonna be miscommunication. So resumes are so overrated. We rarely look at resumes until the end of our recruiting process. If you want to know if someone's going to be a good fit for your business, give them a core values quiz. Tell them the five core values that your business, you know, holds near and dear, and have them write it out and define it. And then, you know, essentially, okay, well, I kind of like this business, or I don't.
Right.
You know, who cares what's on the resume? I mean, yeah, you need to have the skill, but I'd rather hire for attitude and train for skill. You know, it's way more important that you get the right person than it is someone who's really good at what they do that you don't want around.
Wow. That's amazing. You said something, and I definitely don't. I want to push the brakes right there. We're going to go, since we're on this bus theme, we're going to stop at the bus stop. And I just want to reiterate what you just said. You just said, you just made a statement and said, you don't belong here. And I think this is so awesome. Even everything, whether like you was talking about the core value test, basically, even before the resume, you already know if they fit into those core values, you know right away you don't belong here. And I think it makes things so easy in the front end than everybody being misleading, even if it's the employee misleading, but not doing it intentionally. And you said something, I'm like, man, we can mislead and not even doing it intentionally. And
Yeah.
then a year, 2 years down the line, the employee is mad, the employer is mad, everybody is upset by something that can be taken care of if you just stopped at the bus stop and just did the core value test and said, do you belong here or do you not?
Yeah. Right. And then you can't get that time back. So if it's 2 years later, now everybody's mad they wasted the time. You know, have you ever heard, well, that's not what I expected?
Yeah.
There should be no question on what the expectations are.
Yes. Man, that is so. Say that again. Say that again. Come on, say that again. Somebody was driving and they almost ran the light and they didn't quite hear what you said. You got to say this again for them
If
to make sure. Go.
if the expectations are crystal clear, then nobody can say that's not what I expected.
Oh man, knowledge bomb. Man, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. Good information. I want to What are some leadership growth tips, some lessons, some advice, some tools that you can share with the Lead to Greatness community to help us reach our greatest potential?
Yeah, so authenticity is so important. There's a lot of books now about vulnerability, and not like vulnerability like, hey guys, you know, I'm having a bad day. You know, again, as a leader, you don't want to have a bad hair day. But being honest and saying, hey guys, I gotta be honest, like I've never done this before, but I'm going for it. Like that is a teeny bit of vulnerability, because you're admitting that you're not perfect and people can rally behind that, right? But being authentic, you know, don't try to be Elon Musk if you're not. Like he's
Mm,
brilliant, but he's a weirdo sometimes. He's off his rocker, you know,
yeah.
because his brain just works differently. But he is who he is, and he doesn't try to be someone different. different. Be who you are. So if you're passionate about something, just be so clear about what you're passionate about and see if other people want to join you in that mission. And then, hey, you're a leader because other people are following you. And I guess going back to Braveheart, right? People don't follow titles, they follow courage.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to stand behind the guy or the girl who's got the megaphone, and like they burn their boat. They're not looking behind them to see, like they're so fired up, they're charging forward. That's motivating for everybody. So let's go, Cedric. Eye of the tiger again, baby. Now I'm getting fired up.
This is awesome. So if someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, what should they go?
So getstaffedup.com. It's just like it sounds, GETSTAFFEDUP, getstaffedup.com. All the information is there about what we do. Our target market primarily is attorneys, because me and my co-founder are attorneys and we speak the language, and niches bring riches. So that's another big thing. Don't try to be all things to all people. So that's what our marketing is focused on. But we have a lot of non-lawyer clients because these positions are interchangeable. So, but if you're ready to sign up, or you think you want to have a sales conversation with us, or as we call it, a freedom conversation, getstaffedup.com/VIP. That'll take you to a link. Just say name, phone number, email, and where'd you hear about us? And just for your listeners, if you just, mention lead to greatness, or even, Cedric or Cedric Francis, you just drop that in the box, then you'll get a discount of $500 off of your startup fee. So I thought that would be nice for your listeners today.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brent. That is so awesome. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us.
I loved being here, Cedric. I'll come back anytime, man. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one. And don't forget to subscribe to Lead to Greatness if this is your first time. And this podcast was helpful to you, leave a big thumbs up. And also, I want you to check out our Marriage Coach podcast, the podcast with my wife and I. If you're on iTunes, please rate this podcast and leave a review and help get the word out. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness Nation, for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week. Till then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace. We out.